Jets free agency is still in full swing. A new punter, you bring back all-pro returner Kene Nwangwu, and Kenny Aboa goes to the Detroit Lions. Today we're joined by Jets Chaos and NY Flight Jets Talk, break down the latest New York Jets free agent signing, news, rumors, and everything in between. All coming up right here, right now on NY Flight Jets Talk.
Jets, Jets, let's go.
Jets wide receiver Wesley Walker. Wesley, how you doing today? ESPN writer Mr. Rich Cimini, Jets reporter for The Athletic, Mr. Zach Rosenblatt, Hall of Famer, and Jets legend Mr. Marty Lyons.
Your host, Connor Law.
What is going on, everyone? Hello and welcome back right here to NY Flight Jets Talk, coming to you on a Friday, March 14th, 2025. Appreciate you all tuning in with us here on the show. I know normally we start at 8 p.m., but I was on Mets recap duty for MetsMerized.com today. So if you want to check out my Mets work, I'll throw the link into my recap tonight on MetsMerized.com. I had to write the recap for the Mets Cardinals spring training game tonight. So way that works, I have to write it during the game and I have to put it up on the site within 5 minutes pretty much of the game ending. So any Mets fans, I'll throw that link in the chat to my Mets article if you want to go back and read that after the show. But I can't thank you guys enough here for tuning in, sticking with us late night edition of NY Flight Jets Talk. Smash the like, subscribe to the channel. That's the free way to support the show, and it helps us grow significantly. The paid way that helps us grow just as much. Well, you can get into our membership raffle. Every membership gifted or every $2.99 super chat will get you a ticket into our membership raffle. Some great prizes we're giving away this month includes a Wayne Corbett signed jersey, a Darrelle Rivas signed photo, Altoon signed photo, Keyshawn Johnson signed photo, Jericho Cotchery signed photo, free item from our merch store, channel emoji. Get in on that if you haven't already. But joining me right now, fellow Jets content creator, draft expert. He's becoming a draft expert, a scouting guy. Our guy Jeremy from Jets Chaos joins us right here, right now on NY Flight Jets Talk. Jeremy, how you doing, my man?
I am good. Just dealing with some rainy, cold weather out here in Sacramento, something that we're not accustomed to, but I am because I'm a former New Yorker. Yep. I let everybody else cry about it.
Well, Jeremy, I mean, it's a lot earlier over for you in Sacramento than it is here on the East Coast. About almost 10 p.m. here, and we're starting this edition of NY Flight Jets Talk late, so I can't thank everyone enough who is tuning in. Like I said, like, share, and subscribe, the free way to help us grow. Follow Jeremy at Jets Chaos. Find his work, Reality Check, at 3 p.m. every Thursday with Matt O'Leary on the Talkin' Jets YouTube channel. But Jeremy, I want to dig into some of the signings that the Jets made today. I'm going to start with one that was probably my favorite, and that is the Jets extending someone who only played one game. He played more than one game, but he made his impact in his first game with this team last year, and that is kick returner / running back Kene Nwangwu. Jets signed him to a 1-year, $2.5 million extension. Signed to the practice squad in September. Was promoted for the Seahawks game early December, where he forced a fumble on a kickoff return, and then he housed a kickoff return 99 yards for a touchdown. 37 appearances. He's played in 37 games since 2021. He was with the Vikings. Over his career, he's ran 27 times as a running back for 88 yards, along with 3 overall kickoff return touchdowns. So he is clearly more of a kick return guy, someone who's going to provide special teams value. I mean, Jeremy, you get a guy like that back who was electrifying during the Seahawks game. 1-year deal worth up to $2.5 million. Really, what could go wrong here for the Jets? I'm a huge fan of this move, and maybe this means Xavier Gibson's on his way out if the Jets could add a wide receiver or two here this offseason.
That would be nice to see. Definitely based on the moves they're making so far, it's hard to imagine Xavier Gibson has a really big uphill battle because it's showing that they're really trying to clear out some of the stink out of this locker room. And some of the players, it's not even that they're bad. It's just you could tell he's trying to build his own team, and I think it's interesting. He comes from the Bill Parcells coaching tree, and Bill Parcells was a tremendous special teams guy. Like, he believed very deeply in special teams. And if you look, I believe we tendered our Irv Charles. who's
Yep.
shown great potential as a special
Yeah, that was
teamer.
a week or two ago, I
We
think.
brought back the safety Oliver, the secondary guy, but really he's a special teamer, right? That's what he's known for. So it feels like this is the third, the three of the guys that we are keeping on this roster or bringing back are three guys who were very big names or very big contributors to our special teams.
For sure. So I really like the fact that Irv Charles is coming back because he's another guy. You look at him when he was able to stay healthy, when he was on the field, he was a really, really solid contributor for the special teams unit, a great gunner. And, who knows, maybe 6'4", maybe he gives you some wide receiver value in a depth chart that is lacking a lot of wide receiver depth. Again, that's maybe something you can mess with in the preseason, see what you get from him at the wide receiver position. But I don't think you can really expect anything out of Irv Charles to a high degree entering the season when it comes to trying to get wide receiver production from him. Staying with the special teams unit, though, Jeremy, the Jets add a punter. Jets add a punter today, which is interesting because Thomas Morstead has 1 year left on his contract. He had a solid year last year for sure, but wasn't up to the same magnitude of his 2024 season. Rather, Austin McNamara. I hope I'm saying that last name correctly. 24 years old, signed with the Bengals in May of 2024 as an undrafted free agent. Was a punter at Texas Tech in college. During his college career at Texas Tech, he appeared in 60 games, 247 punts for a little over 11,000 yards, averaging 45.9 yards per punt. Jeremy, what does this mean? What does this move mean for the Jets? Do you think this is indicating that Thomas Morstead is on his way out, or do you think this is just adding a camp body, see what he has?
I think it's competition. I think it's adding competition. Morstead, we like him. I know a lot of he's a popular Jet and everything. He has a special relationship with the fans. He did have a drop-off season, though. He was okay. He was solid, but there was a little bit of a drop-off, and I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I'm not surprised, and I wouldn't be surprised if you're going to see every position will have someone, right? Except long snapper, right? I don't expect us to bring in a long snapping guy.
Thomas Hennessy we have, so don't have to worry about that. Yeah,
but bringing in another punter, I wouldn't read deep into it. I think it's just competition. I mean, it's just very simple of to say, hey, everything is going to be earned now. This is a new regime. It's a new coaching staff, and we're not going to put ourselves in a situation, I don't think, or I'm speaking for them, where we don't have options.
Yep.
Where you could just take it for granted you're on the team, you're the punter, just like any other position. No, everybody's going to have to come into camp, and everybody's going to have to earn their keep. And you need to have a competitive punter in there for that to be a reality.
For sure. Another move that someone the Jets did not retain. He actually went to the Detroit Lions, where a lot of the Jets coaching staff is coming from, and that's tight end Kenny Yeboah. Jeremy, we were talking before the show about how much Green Bean loves Kenny Yeboah. You said you spoke to him earlier, and he is he's alive. You don't need to put him on life support, but Kenny Yeboah is no longer a New York Jet. Signs with the Lions. 26 years old. Spent the past 4 seasons with the Jets. He's had 2 starts though. 309 total offensive snaps and 610 on special teams. Last year, he had 9 catches for 111 yards along with a touchdown. So we were talking before the show, but where I am on Yeboah is he's pretty much someone who isn't going to give you much offensive value. He's more of a special teams guy who, if you really need him to do something offensively, he can, but primarily a special teams type player. I'm not going to go crazy over this move. A really deep tight end class, and still talks about the Jets potentially retaining Tyler Conklin, and there's still some other tight ends on the free agent market who are left available the Jets could potentially try to go after.
Absolutely. It's very clear that the Jets are, what they're doing, the strategy. I mean, at least the way it's unfolding is they're not going to panic and overpay or overreach in the free agency class at certain positions. Just because it's not, oh, we need this, so we're just going to go out and, Juwan, we're going to overpay you now to leave your, your team and come join us. It's like, no, we're not going to do that for certain positions. And I think, we signed a little bit of depth pieces, right? Very back end guys that are not even guaranteed to be on the roster. But, in the 2 of the positions that we've done that, there are 2 positions that are the deepest in the draft that we've already talked about, right? Defensive tackle. What are we doing? We haven't brought in any real guys. Like
Tyron Coart. Byron
Yeah.
Coart, to be fair, Jeremy, along with Jay Toufflet, Jay Tuffle, something of that nature, who's been in the league for 5 years and has half a sack. So, the
Yeah.
defensive line room is looking great right now.
Right. These are guys that are going to be competing for roster spots. But if we don't do anything else in free agency in those positions, just understand what it could be is this is where we're going to go young. The draft has we talked about it, just a bag or a buffet of tight ends, defensive tackles, right? And obviously that's where, that'll be the obvious message. It's like, this is, they make decisions for these positions, we're going to look to free agency. For these positions, we're going to look at the draft. If that is the strategy and they're just not wanting to overpay guys for defensive tackle and tight end because there hasn't been guys they feel are worth it, at least I agree with them on their evaluation of the draft. I see some potential in these guys and the way they're thinking, because they're nailing it as far as the defensive tackles and the tight ends this offseason. The value is in the draft.
Appreciate you all tuning in. Smash the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Jeremy and Connor here with you. Friday edition of NY Flight Jets Talk. Any questions for us? Throw them in the chat. Call into the show with the pinned comment at the top of the chat. Super chats come up here immediately. Zachary Berner in the house. He comes in. He says, I don't know if tight end or wide receiver, RT or DT will be the pick at 7. This is going to be interesting during the draft.
Yeah, this is wide open. I think the reality of this bottom heavy draft that's so weak at the top, and limited at the top, combines with the multiple amount of needs we have, right? I mean, even, there's even possibility that Shadir Sanders, slips 7. We don't know that we're not going to grab Sanders. We have no idea, and not only that, it seems that we're pretty tight-lipped. The media is, they're not saying it, but Rich Cimini was on in the Jets lounge, and he was saying, I have no idea. Like he said, like he has.
That's what he said on here. I had him on Saturday. No, it was Friday morning. No, Tuesday morning. Excuse me. I got my days all mixed up. It was a weird week of school. I had several days off. It was Tuesday morning. I had him on, and he pretty much told me, yeah, it's hard to predict what the Jets are going to do here. And one more thing, I'll hit it in a little. One thing that I still found really interesting, he told me that he's heard there are teams interested in Tony Adams, and he would not be surprised by any means if the Jets do trade Tony Adams.
That's wild. That's wild. It would be funny if it turns out that interest is the Atlanta Falcons and the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah.
The two coaches that just.
I'm surprised Ashton Davis didn't go to San Francisco. He has Saleh there and Brant Boyer. Because I thought if Ashton Davis came back, he would be like the captain of the special teams, play every snap on special teams, and do nothing for you on defense on a $3 million contract. I'm surprised he didn't go to San Francisco. But yeah, it's hard to predict, Zachary, where the Jets are going to go at pick 7. Staying with the topic of pick 7, our guy Thomas comes in the chat and he says, in last year's draft, where does Membu rank? Think it's a risk to take him at 7. Jeremy, the Armand Membu hype is crazy.
It's an incredible reach. It's an incredibly reach. But any offensive tackle is a reach at 7 in this draft. Mm-hmm. There's just no question. There's not an offensive tackle in this draft that would crack the top 5 in our evaluations like last year. Last year they would not have.
I don't think there's a player in this draft class, Jeremy. Maybe you could argue like Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, but I don't know if there's a player in this draft class who would really crack the top 5 last year, especially if you look at the order.
Well, when I say offensive tackle the top 5, I mean the top 5 offensive tackles.
Oh, I see. I
don't know if like I could name 5 offensive tackles from last year that no tackle this year would surpass. Like I don't.
Yeah, Alt, Wanga, Fatanu, Fashanu.
Yeah,
he would probably be 5 or 6 on that list.
Yeah,
JC. Oh yeah, JC Latham is another one.
Yeah, who's
5 or 6
passing these guys, right? So
I just think people are obsessed because his measurables are crazy at the combine. And
his measurables are. I am not. I don't. I I think you're getting into it too. I trust film and their actually proven performance. Pick that high. I don't mind 3rd, 4th rounds. We're taking this guy who's an extraordinary athlete or put up these incredible numbers. But when I'm using a number 7 pick, that kind of resource, I'm not doing it on he's a great athlete. I really think he could develop into something. And when you watch his film, he's not there yet. He's not a number 7 pick. He has some really great attributes. He has some good film, but he's not a number 7 pick in this draft. There isn't a tackle that really is. But if they took him, it wouldn't shock me because of the need. But after signing this kid from, this kid who like had this issue in New England, but started 3 years for Pittsburgh.
We have some Patriots fans in the chat too, so I'm sure they can give us Paul Costa and DTN, our Patriots fans in the chat. So give us some insight on Chamuka Okafor. I hope I'm saying that name correctly there.
I mean, look, I don't think that they're just handing him the starting job. He could just be depth.
Yeah.
But I think it does make it interesting or make it maybe less likely that we draft one of these tackles, especially in the draft, because they would be a reach. So, a lot of these guys would be a reach. I mean, if we can't trade down, they're almost every player on the board that's going to be at 7 is probably going to be a reach. But I think it's a bigger reach. I think if you're going to reach, at least do it with, a guy who would be a top at least 20 pick any year. Like a Tyler Warren could have been a top 20 draft pick last year, right? So that would feel a little better. Mason Graham, right? If he's there when we pick, would be definitely a top 20 pick last year.
Ashton Genty, I think, would have been a top 20 pick, but
yeah,
Jets
sure.
aren't going to take him. Yeah.
We're not going to take a running back, but if he was there, the nice thing about that is there's a very good chance we'd be able to slightly trade down, and which would be a beautiful situation for us. So, yeah, I just think it's a huge reach at him. I mean, if we traded down and took him at 20, then I don't care nearly as much. Although I still am thinking, why? Don't you want to?
I'm not a big fan of offensive tackle in the first few rounds. Trapillo, our guy in the third round, like Ariante Ursary, if you really, really want to get a tackle to come in, like he's a middle of the second round guy you could potentially try to go after. I don't think the drop off is that steep from a production standpoint, from an Armand Membu to a Ozzy Trapillo or a Ariante Ursary. I would take Membu higher. I just think the overall value is better. Like the overall, draft position, that value in the second or third round with Ursary or Trapillo would be so much better overall than like
it's very well said. The gap doesn't justify it, right? The gap between him and those guys is not nearly as big as the gap between using a third round pick or second round pick or trading back the second round, trading back a little bit, and gaining an extra fourth or something. And then getting a guy like that is just so much more valuable as a prospect. I mean, it might turn out that Mabu is an all-pro and these guys are, not even good starters. But as a prospector, with the information we know and have today, the gap just isn't big enough.
Billy SBC in the chat says, how do we get Conklin back? I think, Jeremy, it's going to be 3 years, $24 million. He's going to command a lot of money.
Well, he's going to command a lot, but understand, even though when we say 3 years, it's really going to be 2, because the guarantee is not going to be anything more than $2 million of that contract. So if it's like $24 million 3 years, you're probably looking at 16 guaranteed, which gives us complete flexibility. And that seems to be in pattern with what they're doing. I'm not saying two things could be true. We're trying to win with the roster that we can build in the meantime. But the reality is these next 2 years is retooling and building the team to launch into the future. And you're not going to see us make too many commitments that go beyond 26, except for the extensions of our young players like Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner.
Our guy June, the GM, wants in on raffle. He became a YouTube member. June, that is a raffle ticket for you. Anyone wants to get into our membership raffle, every $2.99 super chat, every gifted membership will get you a ticket. Like I said, can't thank you enough for tuning in. Keep the questions coming. We'll get to those. If you're on hold, I know we have a few callers on hold. We'll get to you guys in a little bit once we finish out with these next few questions. June comes back in, says, do you believe that our Jets are going to bring in some competition for Fields aside from Tyrod? I believe we should, but I doubt they will. I don't know about competition, June, but I could certainly see them try to go out and get a developmental day 2, day 3 quarterback.
I think the real question is, let me reword that question. This is the question I think that we're really wondering. Are the Jets going to bring in competition for Jordan Travis? Like, are the Jets going to replace Jordan Travis as that young roll of the dice, maybe he turns into something. Like, are they going to decide Will Howard is a bet or McCord is just a better roll
I
of the
could see them. I could see them doing something where if they draft someone like that, just flat out move on from Travis. Like maybe it's a camp competition, but I could, especially everything that's come out with his agent, Jeremy, and the whole Rich Samini story. I could see a world where the Jets flat out move on from Jordan Travis and then just draft a quarterback.
I could, depending on how annoyed they are with him and what the conversations behind the scenes have been, because there's no benefit to doing it now. Like if you drafted McCord, why it costs you nothing. It means nothing to keep unless he's going to be a distraction, unless he's a bad attitude, a bad apple. You don't want him in there because of what his agent did. But that aside, why wouldn't you at least again compete? Make it be about competing, because I mean they definitely have no emotional tie, no investment in him at all. But at the same time, I mean there were a lot of people pretty excited about this kid before he got hurt, so it would be kind of a shame not to even look at him.
June, the GM, comes back in, says we're not going cornerback, but I love Will Johnson. But I've been banging the table for Warren. I just don't think the overall value there is worth it, Jeremy, for a cornerback at pick 7. And meanwhile, he might not even be a cornerback 2 with the crazy contract that Brandon Stevens got. I'm not for rolling the dice, and I don't even know if Will Johnson is my cornerback 1 truly in this year's class. I really like Jahdae Barron, the cornerback from Texas. I would probably take him over Will Johnson if I really had to go cornerback. But I'm looking at a guy like Darian Porter from Iowa State with that 93rd overall pick. I'm super, super high on a guy like Porter. Even if you look in one of the earlier rounds, Siobhan Revel, I know is someone we spoke about from ECU. Trey Amos from Ole Miss. A lot of different cornerbacks. I don't know if I want to use a top 10 pick on a cornerback.
Yeah, and there's a kid, Noel, spelled
Jalen
Noel.
Noel, yeah, Noeil, something like that. Something.
Not the wide receiver. There's a cornerback. It's Nohl.
Noel Williams from Cal.
Noel Williams. So from Berkeley. So there's a guy who's like 5th, 6th rounds, who Dom C super high on him. I haven't gotten to watch his film, but Dom C, put him in his top 10 and was pretty high on the kid, so, but like, again, I think the reason I love Will Johnson, I don't know if he's my number 1. I haven't really thought about cornerback too much. He's definitely top 3 and definitely a guy I believe could be an all-pro. He might be a top 3 NFL elite cornerback. He certainly has the potential if he stays healthy. Like, he has that ceiling for sure. But obviously, yeah, I mean, I think June is saying it too. We know that's not going to happen. I mean, the fact that we just invested a $36 million contract,
yeah,
with a $23 million guaranteed on a quarterback too, it's very hard to imagine that we would then pick number 7 pick is for a day 1 starter, right? So how could you take Will Johnson? And I think that's what June is saying. Like it's not even in the realm of believability or possibility, because you're gonna then who's gonna be on the bench? Your number 7 pick or a guy you just signed to a 3-year deal, $12 million per.
For sure. Let's see, where were we in the chat? Jet Up, our guy Caden comes in, says trade for Goddard, Clemens, and a 5th. I don't think they would take Michael Clemens in a trade, Caden. I'd give up a 4th round pick though for Dallas Goddard in a heartbeat.
Yeah, the problem with Clemens is if you keep his contract, you have to pay him $3.5 million, right?
Yeah.
Believe it or not, as much as we hate him and people hate to hear this, because of performance incentives, which is basically not his accomplishments as a great player, but his volume of reps. Because of his volume of reps, he automatically, if you want to keep him on the roster, and that includes trades, he's $3.5 million, and that's just. I mean, I think that's like almost saying, here, take our problem or our issue. I mean, obviously we can cut him for free. I mean, it's like $100,000 cap hit to, dead cap to cut him. It costs nothing to release him. But I don't know. I don't know is there any team willing to pay Clemens $3 million? I mean,
exactly.
I think he's the biggest guy you have to get out of that locker room. I mean, if you want to look at one of the worst things left of this Jets organization and the whole stink of last year, it's the penalties and the lack of
jumping on the pile, and
I mean, yeah, he needs to go. Yeah, he needs to go. You want to talk about changing the culture? That's like one of the leading guys that need to be out of that locker room.
Joe Grana, Graham, Membu, or Warren at 7, or trade down and draft Booker at right guard and slide AVT out to tackle. I think you could probably get Booker at 42. I think there's a strong chance you get Booker at 42. He might go end of the first round, but again, that's not a guy I want to use end of the first round, early second round pick on. Like, Booker's a really, really solid guard. I like him. Turns 20. He just turned 21 years old, so on the younger side, 6'5", 325 pounds. Overall, really, really solid blocker, a mauler in the run game. I don't know if I want to use a first or second round pick on a guy who, yeah, you're going to come in, but you're also going to have to slide Elijah Vera Tucker out to tackle, and he's gotten injured every time he's played tackle. I like the idea, Jeremy, of you have AVT at guard, you have Timmon at center, Simpson at guard, that same group, Fashanu at left tackle, right tackle. My plan right now, my dream is Chamuka Okafor is a depth piece. And by the way, I'm going to pull up some insight here I want to share with you, Jeremy, from Mike Reese of ESPN. Shout out to him. Good relationship with Mike Reese. So he gave me some insight on Okafor and what his role was like with the Patriots last year. He told me, quote, the Patriots were hoping Okafor would be their left tackle last season, despite the fact he mostly played right tackle in Pittsburgh prior to that. They signed him to a fairly significant one-year contract with that in mind. It didn't work out, and Okafor did not earn the starting job. However, he came in and took backup reps during week 1. He was benched 12 snaps in after allowing too many pressures and left the team before week 2. So that's what went down with Chamuka Okafor. I hope I'm saying that correctly. I want him to be a depth guy. I want the right tackle job to be a competition between Kendall Lamb, 10-year NFL veteran who was great with the Dolphins this past season, and Ozzie Trapillo, Josh Myers, interior offensive line depth. That's my goal right now among who we have on the roster.
And if we're going to do any strategy that involved taking a guard, 4th rounds, Miles Frazier. Again, when you talk about the gap, the difference between the gap, but the spot where you can draft them, the value is so much higher in from Miles Frazier anyway. And he's a guy that will probably be, unless an NFL team, because you never know. New England took Strange, right? Because they, like us, did the prospecting, and they picked him way too high, but we all loved him at 100, right? We all loved him as a third, early 4th round pick. But New England saw the film and said, we don't care what everybody else is saying. We're taking this kid because they saw he was really talented. Well, Miles Frazier is that guy, and to me, if I'm taking a guard, I'm going to wait till the 4th round to do that. And this way we don't even have to move AVT over. We can justify a 4th round pick on Miles Frazier just because the depth that it would bring our football team. And he's going to be a future starting, guard in this league.
Appreciate you all tuning in. Smash the like, subscribe. Any questions from Jeremy, we will get to those, so keep those coming. Call into the show with the pinned comment at the top of the chat. Let's go over to the phone lines. First up here on the show is our guy DTN, who joins us right here, right now, and a Patriots fan, Jeremy, a Patriots fan.
Yeah, what's up,
Connor? On the show.
Yeah, what's up, Connor? I just joined here just because I saw you on the AFC East roundtable, and I thought you did a really good job. And
I appreciate it. I listened to you on Colby's show during the season with you and with Colby, you, Rob, and your rants on the Patriots every single
and then
Sunday
a couple other folks like Nathan and then Neil. But yeah, just to give you an insight on Chooks Okorafor, you could just call him Chooks, because I think that the 2 writers for the Patriots, Mike Dussault and Ev Lazar, they try to butcher that name. But what I do know, I read a couple of sources on why we released Chooks Okorafor, or why he didn't play well with the Patriots. Probably because one, he didn't like playing with Jerod Mayo, because obviously we had so many unknowns about Jerod Mayo at the time, so that could be a factor. And 2, during his time with the Steelers, I thought maybe he could be like a right tackle for you, since we did poach your guy Morgan Moses, so probably he can fill out the right tackle for you.
For sure. Morgan Moses is an interesting one. And Jeremy, I want to get your thoughts on that. I was in the boat of trying to keep him, but looking at what your Patriots paid him, DTN, 3 years, $21 million, like, he's this really, really solid player when he's on the field. The thing is, you're paying a 34-year-old $21 million guaranteed. He's going to be 37 when that contract expires, and his 2024 season was just riddled with injuries. So, Jeremy, where are you on Where are you on the Morgan Moses contract?
Well, I think to be fair to New England, it's realistically, it's only a 2-year commitment, not a 3-year commitment, in the sense of the cost of releasing them year 3 wouldn't be that high, right? And they could do it as a post-June. Like if they had to get out of it, it's not like the end of the world to get out of it, right? They're only really locked into him for a couple of years. And if they can get just average right tackle play out of him, I understand it. Like it's not the greatest draft for tackle this year, right? It's a bad year. You get a guy with tons of experience. You have a young quarterback. You already found your quarterback. You need to make sure that you're going to protect him. He's a leader. He's a really good locker room guy. He's a good leader in the offensive line room. And just for where New England is, like you can justify it by saying we have a lot of needs. We're rebuilding this team around this young quarterback, right? And we're just going to get this solid guy, and maybe we'll eat a little bit of money later, but it's not backbreaking. But we're going to get a veteran guy who could like be a leader in that offensive line room. And we've seen offensive line surprise us, alignment surprise us and play to their 37. It's not that it's impossible, right? The Rams did it. I mean, with they had a guy, White's with something. He was like 40 years old. So I don't think it's a terrible move. I just think it's different than what the Jets were able to do. Like we don't have our quarterback yet. We don't have our young guy that has to be super protected. We're looking, to fill different things with our money. Like everybody thinks about it differently. And I just think that you got two teams in two different places where we weren't ready to make that commitment. We're clearly going young. Anyway, like we haven't signed a guy over 26 or 27. I think almost every guy we're signing is young. So it's also, so you have to think different philosophies too.
For sure. Yeah. DTN, we appreciate the call as always. You got any final thoughts you want to share here before we let you go?
Well, I think going off of what you said about Morgan Moses, Jets Chaos, I think that he can bring in some leadership, knowing for the fact that like yesterday I made a short on Patriots Talk talking about how the Patriots released David Andrews. So I think that Morgan Moses filling out the leadership, obviously we're definitely going to need to fill out the center role, the left tackle and left guard. But I know for a fact when you have Morgan Moses, you feel this leadership. So like besides Drake May, because we already see a lot of leadership with Drake May, but with Morgan Moses, because he's been in the league for like longer than everyone else on the Patriots team, I think that this could basically improve the younger ones, because obviously we had so many issues last year with social media, with this finger pointing here and there. So with the new free agency, I like the fact that we have some leaders.
Yeah.
DTN, appreciate the call as always. You got any? Have a good night.
Have a good night, Connor.
You too. Peace. Ladies and gentlemen, our Patriots fan checking in here on the show. DTN, great call as always. Appreciate his support. If anyone wants to call into the show, they could do so with the pinned comment at the top of the chat. Let's keep it going with your calls. Nick T is up next here on the show. Nick T, you're on NY Flight Jets Talk.
What's up, Connor? How you doing?
Doing well, Nick. How you doing?
Good. Happy Friday. So wait, what did I didn't really get to see it. I know Moses got a decent amount of money. What did he get from New England?
3 years, $21 million guaranteed, worth up to 28.5 with incentives.
Yeah. That is a lot more money than I thought he'd get for a veteran. What was he, 32, 33?
34.
Yeah, that's a good amount of money for a right tackle.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially his age. I mean, I know he's solid, but he's I guess it is what it is. But that's what I guess I'm trying to figure out is where this. I'm not even gonna try and pronounce his name because I'll butcher it. This New England right tackle that we got, or presumably right tackle.
Chuck.
Yeah. You said we can call him Chooks or Chucks.
He said Chooks. I think that's what we heard.
Yeah, I think that's what I heard, but I'm not even gonna. Just give me a nickname that's easy to pronounce.
Yeah, Chooks.
Chooks.
But like, so the other question I have is, I haven't seen this because I haven't followed it as much. But Jedrick Wills, did he sign anywhere yet?
No.
I still really like, especially the fact that I know he didn't grade out well this last year and the last couple games, but in college. He was to his right tackle. I know that's to his blind side. I think he might have some value there. And with Chuka, Chuka, whatever, Chooks, whatever we call. But like a competition at right tackle with him and Wills, I would love it. I honestly think that that's the only missing piece to the offensive line. Like the kid we signed from Green Bay, I think is a depth piece, but I think it's a lot of what they're doing is just building up the lines, kind of similar to what Douglas did. And that's what I liked about what Douglas was doing, is they were building up the lines. And I think we have a lot of good depth at the line position. And if they can double down at that tackle position, I think we'll be pretty solid. There's something to be said about chemistry there. And I think that if presumably Olu comes back healthy, that line is pretty solid across the board.
Jeremy, yeah, for sure. Jeremy, I want to get your thoughts. Nick brought up Jedrick Wills. He's a name who's been a hot topic really among the Jet fans. I'll give my thoughts here in a second on Wills, but Jeremy, what do you got on him?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Nick said it right. I mean, he's a guy who didn't grade well. He's been hurt. He's had trouble staying healthy. But at right tackle, there's in a competitive role, like competition in camp, fighting for the role. Certainly not the worst answer if he ended up the swing tackle. Like not that bad. Like a guy who we could see even winning the starting job. I think the real question is how much money does he want? What are other teams willing to pay him? Sometimes we forget, because I know a lot of people are screaming on Twitter or X, why aren't we getting him? Why aren't we getting him? But like, we have to remember there's 31 other teams, right? So we don't know what those other teams are offering him, right? And so we have obviously everybody has a plan. They have a blueprint. So we have a certain amount of budget and a certain amount of plan and strategy of what we want to do. And the question really becomes, I wouldn't mind seeing him at all at a really good deal. But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't mean it's because we don't like him or we're not trying. It just means he doesn't fit our blueprint, right? That someone else, if you see him sign a 3-year deal, maybe it was just we weren't willing to sign a 3-year deal and some other team won. So that would be the explanation of why we don't do it. But we don't know that we're not interested. We might be in negotiation with him right now, right? So we just don't know. So, but I don't think it's a bad idea. I wouldn't make a giant commitment, but if we can get him with some value and not too much of a long-term commitment, again, stay within the model they're staying in, nothing beyond 2 years, nothing that locks you or sticks you to a player for too long. I wouldn't mind it at all. I would feel a little bit better about the room.
Nick, I may want to get another point in here. I'll just give my thoughts quickly on Wills. Someone who's still on the younger side, he has upside. I get the fact why he's intriguing there. Played right tackle in college. For me, health is a massive, massive issue. Someone who's played 13 games over the past 2 seasons, hasn't logged a snap at right tackle throughout his entire career. That's entire NFL career. I'm going to correct myself there. Excuse me. A name I really like in free agency who's still available, I think could be a veteran stopgap guy. Doesn't have all the upside in the world, but veteran guy I really like, Kendall Lamb, could come in cheap. Spot Rack estimates his contract at about $2.5 million for 1 season. Didn't allow a sack last year. I think only allowed 4 pressures or something like that. 9 games with the Dolphins, 7 starts, all 7 at right tackle, but he also appeared in 2 games as the left tackle. So you kind of have that versatility there. And then also going the draft route. I understand the upside with Wills. His inability, though, to stay healthy and inexperience at right tackle at the NFL level scares me a little bit. Nick, what else did you wanted to get in here before we let you go?
Yeah, no. So to your point, Spot Track is what I'm going off of too. Like Wills, they have right around the same value. It's like 3 to 4. That's why I'm saying like the upside as a former first round pick. That's what I really like. And again, name value. Maybe Lamb probably is not a first round pick. Probably has more upside. Because we all know the names. But we'll see. But in terms of just last point, something that I've seen and I got to give props to my buddy Steve. He's one of my buddies. We talk Jets all the time since I've been in grade school. But the thing that he mentioned, and we talk about this all the time, is that, and the last quarterback I can think of that this happened with is probably Kirk Cousins. And granted, is what it is. His career is what it is. But in terms of quarterbacks entering the prime of their career and being a free agent, Justin Fields is the first quarterback that we've actually been around that the Jets have signed in the prime prime of his career, right? He's going to be like, what, 27? And whether it's Ryan Fitzpatrick, Aaron Rodgers, Vinny Testaverde, going back to, my days in like 98, 99. And it's every time it's a quarterback that's potentially past his prime. And this is a quarterback that has an upside. And it's something that the organization hasn't done historically. And that's granted, yes, he has flaws. And yes, the organization has not developed quarterbacks at all. But let's just take a step back and at least commend the organization for at least taking a shot on someone who has a higher ceiling than anything that we've seen, instead of going with what we've already seen and just hoping that we can recreate the past. And that's what I like about the Field signing more than anything else. And that's what I hope. I still hope that we can make an investment in a young quarterback. I like Jackson Dart. I hope he's there in the second round and they can have that decision to just sit him and let him learn. But I like where we're at with just at least exploring the upside of a quarterback who has the higher ceiling of what we could see. And that's all we can ask for. And I think that gives us an opportunity for a better success. So,
Nick,
guys,
appreciate the call as always. Have a good night. Ladies and gentlemen, our guy Nick T, who's checking in here on the show. Junior up next year, just after we give our quick thoughts on that last point. Last point from Nick. I like it, Jeremy. I've always been big on taking that big upside swing, and I think the Jets got that in a guy like Justin Fields. You maybe the floor is a little lower than a Kirk Cousins type guy, but the ceiling's a lot higher, and I think that's the risk you take when you look for a bridge guy. There's still that unknown with Fields compared to a Kirk Cousins or a Derek Carr, where it's just the same old.
I think the magical thing that you just said is bridge guy. You're taking a bridge guy. You know that the future is 27 and beyond, as far as like in a real plan that to be realistic about winning, right? So you're in a bridge situation. Why not take the guy that might, you never know, maybe they build a system that's very effective. I'm not saying it's likely. It doesn't matter. We can argue all day about how likely it is to happen. But if it was to happen, right, with Kirk and Derek Carr, there's no chance. It's like it's a bridge and then they're gone, right? Whereas this, what if we come out and we're a really good offense? Like we're running the ball really well. He's running the ball really well. When he has to, he's making the RPO plays and the design, plays for him, quick off, slants or whatever. What if it works? And then suddenly we actually have the possibility of saying, we don't necessarily have to draft a quarterback.
Yep.
Maybe we actually have our guy. That's what it is. It's an upside swing. And if he comes in and if he's the Justin Fields that he's been and the limitations that he's had is still limitations, it's a bridge quarterback. Okay. We're going to draft a guy in 26,
It's a low risk, high reward.
It's a low risk thing. It's not like we signed into a 4 or 5 year deal. We're talking about 2 years. It's a 2 year.
You can get out of it after one, pretty much.
Right.
Too. Like I think if he's a disaster this year, you could get out of it. And like who knows? Who knows? Maybe exactly. Maybe he has an okay season, plays like an average quarterback. You really have faith and you get your guy in this year in the 26th draft. You feel comfortable in the group behind him. Maybe you give Tyrod another 1 to 2 year deal with this team. You just want to get one solid year out of him. Boom, you win 7-8 games with the guy. Trade him, and who knows what his trade value could look like. Who knows what a team would be willing to give up for Justin Fields with his traits, with his athleticism, with his skill set after he proves he's able to have some sort of sustained success. So, again, it goes back to the fact it's a low-risk, high-reward type move, and that's what I really like about Fields. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Keep the questions coming. We'll get to those in a minute. If you want to call into the show, you could do so. Pin comment at the top of the chat. Let's go back to the phone lines. Our guy June, the GM, is up next year on the show. June, how you doing?
What's going on, Connor? I did want to address something that you said. Not for our team, because we don't need a corner now, because we overspent on somebody I never heard of. But when you said a corner at number 7 is not valued, that's not true. Because some of the best
I said with this team.
Oh, with this team, okay, cool. Because you do know some of the best corners in football always drafted early. Whether it was Sauce, Shartan Jr., the history of cornerback.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just saying not with this situation.
Right. It's interesting, right? Because I've been thinking, looking at our squad, and I'm saying these guys can't miss on no draft picks the first 3-4 rounds. Typically, the first 2 rounds, that's what you're hoping to insert them immediately. But the way our roster is looking right now, but these kind of average signings, I'm going to be real with you, it looks like we can't miss. And to be honest, we better hope Mason Graham is there because our defensive line is suspect. I mean, we can run for a first down against our defensive line. And then if he's not there, is it Brock Bowers kind of changed people's perspective on how you look at drafting a tight end early? But do you move back and pray to get Warren between 10 to 12 or say, hey, we're going to take him at 7? Because if you draft a tight end at 7, you're expecting a Orca big year. Now, I think Warren's worth it only because I think Justin Fields needs, aside from the running back, another check down, and a tight end is a great check down. You know what I'm saying? Especially somebody like Warren. But I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of pressure on Muji to nail this draft.
Yeah.
Because if he goes out there and picks some ass player who becomes the next Vernon Ghostin or something crazy like that, I'm going to tell you, man, there's going to be more heat in the kitchen real fast. Because you know, as Jet fans, we be hopeful every year, playoffs every year. Boy, you mess up this draft, and we're going to be on your ass the whole year. So let me ask you something. Let's say the horses are gone, right? Hunter's gone. The beast down there in Penn State is gone. Graham is gone. Because I feel like when you look at Warren, Johnson, the kid Campbell, I feel like they're all kind of in the same grouping. Like there's a drop off from the 2 elite prospects, which I believe is the kid Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter. I feel like those are the 2 elite 5-star prospects to me. Where do we go? Where would you say it's the most position of need if, we have that second tier available? I'm thinking defensive tackle if Graham lands to us. If not, would you be satisfied with going tight end, or you think that's a reach at 7?
Jeremy, what do you got there?
I could live with Warren at 7 because I understand the situation of this draft, right? Like you just said it yourself, June. You've nailed it. There's only 2 elite players. So that's the reality of this draft. Obviously, we would love to trade back in that situation that you just described, right? We would love it because we would still get Warren. And even if somebody screwed us and took him, fine, who cares? I mean, it's not like we wouldn't. Then we could take a defensive tackle. If we traded back and Warren wasn't there, we could take Kenneth Grant, who probably, I know he's not the prospect that Mason Grant is, but Kenneth Grant is actually the better fit. Like if you want to talk about
the team fit.
He's actually, but also alongside Q, because Mason Graham is Q, right? Like that, they're the same. So but we saw our best defensive line 2 years ago when it wasn't a guy like Q. It was a run-stopping, more of a lateral type of guy. So trading back is so great because if you go back, whether it's 12 or 15 or 16, there's so many guys that are fairly valued in that range that we could go a million directions. So Tyler Warren to me is the guy, it was Ted. I love Ted McMillan, but him not willing to run at the combine and not willing to run on his, like saying he's not going to run is just too concerning to me. Like that's so concerning.
And he doesn't, when you look at his game, great hands, but there's not a lot of separation, you notice, and I know you love him, Connor. I think he's a good receiver, but when you analyze a wide receiver, you have to, especially the pros, you have to look at the separation. He doesn't separate from the corners in college, so he sure as hell is separating from NFL corners. That's why I'm a little worried about him. You're right. He should
for sure.
He should.
I get that 1,000%. And my argument with that is he's not supposed to beat someone with his separation. Like Garrett Wilson isn't going to beat someone going up and getting jump balls over their head. That's who Ted McMillan is. But yeah, I understand the concern there. I still think I would be on board with Emeka Ibuka or Ted at 7. Just because, again, it's a weaker draft class, and I think you need a lot of wide receiver help, especially the fact
at 7. You'll take him that early at 7. Ibuka?
Ted? Oh, Ibuka?
Yeah, you're taking him at 7.
I would like him in a trade back, but I wouldn't hate it at 7.
Okay. Because I won't be.
He's not my number 1 option. He's probably my top 3 or top 5 option at 7.
I think I'm not gonna lie. I think if you could trade back and if the board doesn't fall in our favor, like we said, if Warren's not there, Graham's gone, then the option has to be we got to find a partner to trade back. I won't be mad at Buka at I don't know 13 or 15 range. I won't be mad at him around that. I think he played very well with Wilson.
I also think that this would be the draft to be willing to, we have to change the value of what a trade back is, the normal point system. I think we got to be willing to sell at 75 cents to the dollar. Like, because of this draft, even if we trade back, like one of the ways we can entice a trade back is to sell it for 75 cents to the dollar, to give a team a really good deal to come up if they really love somebody. Because the truth is, we'll still get the guy we want probably if we trade back into the teens, or we'll get somebody that's so close that we're all okay with. And getting that extra pick has so much more value, right? Because you never know. We could take that extra pick we trade back for, combine it with our number 2, and move into the back end of the first round, right? And get another, kind of assure that we're going to get that day one start.
For sure.
So there's so many different kind of options. I want to say if we don't take a defensive tackle, in that early first round or whatever with that pick or trade back, one of the nice things about this draft is, because June, you said it, you want a day one starter defensive tackle. This is such a rich draft to that position. Like, between TJ Sanders, Walter Nolan, Kenneth
Jamari Caldwell.
Caldwell. There's so many.
Deborah Carmen's another one. Darius Alexander.
And then the guy I love, Damian Alexander, or
Darius.
Dorian Alexander.
Darius.
So there's so much. The point is, there's so much at that position that we could. I don't think we could afford to risk waiting to the third round on it, though, as good, as rich as it is, because I agree with you, June. It's so terrible, the defensive line, and we're not going to make any headway if we don't hit on that position. So I think that if we don't do it in the first round, we have to use that 42nd pick on defensive tackle. But there will be a day one starter type guy in there, or at least a prospect.
God willing for us, because if it's one thing that I noticed last year that really hurt us as a team, I mean, my God, we couldn't stop. If you found out from game 1 against San Francisco, I was like, what's happening? Is this serious? Like, they were Swiss cheesing us the whole year. We need to fix that line. I'm not gonna lie. Every year, my wife will tell you she thinks I'm crazy. Every year we're going to the Super Bowl. But this is the first year that I'm actually kind of tempering my expectations. Not to say I don't think we can land a playoff spot, but I'm just kind of sitting back and relaxing my emotions.
Same here, 1000%.
I can't do too much. I'm tired, man. I'm over 45 years rooting for this team. I'm tired. Like, I don't got the energy. And you know what's scary? I'm hoping Justin Fields does great. But my God, if he doesn't, the type of season we're gonna have, if he doesn't come out the gate.
What are the alternatives? That's the thing. Like, what is the alternative?
We had none.
Exactly.
We had no alternatives. We had nothing. That was the best move. I gotta give him props for that. We had nothing. Who were you gonna bring? Freaking Carson Wentz, who got cobwebs on his kneecaps. We got nobody, But
Taylor Heineke,
we're gonna have to run. We're gonna have to be a run-heavy offense, and like you said earlier, Jets Chaos. He has to make 1 to 3 strong throws a game on third down, whether scrambling, hit somebody in the flat. He has to have a couple of those throws a game to give us a chance to be competitive. I believe we have the talent in certain areas to be competitive. It's all going to be on this kid Tanner, okay? His first time being the OC, from what I hear, his specialty was coaching the tight ends. I heard that was his strength. That's why I'm thinking we're going Warren. It's all on this kid, because that's a big thing to take on to try to fix Justin Fields in terms of his pocket awareness and his reads. Mm-hmm. If he can some way, somehow get him at least to 2 reads, we might have lightning in the bottom.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing I'll say about that, the going into the season with expectations, June, same thing. I remember I started this show my first episode, funny enough, came on Christmas 2023. So ever since then, I've pretty much been covering them since the off season every single day. I haven't missed a day since, I think, beginning of February, and that's the goal forever now on the show. But covering this team, I remember entering last year, I was so excited talking about it. And there was just, I remember like shaking watching the 49ers game. Like every single snap matters. This is the season. You have to, every snap needs to be perfect. You want to go in the playoffs. Now we went through hell last year. The season broke a lot of us Jet fans. Now I'm just sitting back here. I'm talking about the free agent signings. I'm sitting back here relaxed. I'm not panicking over who they sign, who they don't. If the Jets win 5 games and they're a fun team, so be it. So be it. If the Jets end up winning 5 games, coaching's great, come in, they set a culture, they simply don't have the talent to be better, that's a win for me. I'm not judging this season. Would it be great? And it's not the craziest thing to say. Tyrod Taylor and Justin Fields, average football with a competent defense and better coaching could get you 9-8 and get you into the wild card round. It's not the it's not the craziest thing to say.
That's best case scenario, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's
on the high end.
Yeah, exactly. That's the ceiling. The thing is, I'm not going into the season looking for exact wins. I'm looking to see, how did this regime handle year 1? Was it an unmitigated disaster to the fact I would take a 6-win season where they're playing gritty football every day, every Sunday. They just don't have the talent to win, over a 7 over like a let's say that I'd take a 4-win season, something like that, over a 6 or 7-win season where they're winning off pure talent. The coaching staff looks like a mess. You're still allowing 80 or 60 penalty yards. I'm more so about the intangibles, the coaching, what this regime looks like in year 1 over just pure wins or losses. And I see Billy comes in the chat, says, that sounds good, Connor, but older Jet fans have had enough to rebuilding. This isn't a rebuild. It's not. And if you're saying it's a rebuild, there was no other option. They were, quote, rebuilding in your words then, no matter what after the season.
There's no choice.
Yeah.
I know it stinks and I know it's horrible, but there's no choice. It's like I hear that all the time. I've waited, I'm also a Jet fan over 40 years, right? I'm over 50 years old.
I can tell by the pain in your eyes. I see it, Chaos.
Yeah. But there's no choice, right? I mean, it's not like I know we're all tired of it, but what are you going to do? We don't have the roster. Yeah. Too many holes. There's no fix for it that gives us a chance to win the Super Bowl next year. So the only thing you could do if you want to increase your chances to eventually win that Super Bowl before we're all dead is to actually consider how to build and rebuild or retool, whatever you want to call it, this team. But the reality is, though, if you go balls to the wall right now and try to get the best free agents this year and bring them in and spend all your money, what you're doing is you're not going to win the Super Bowl. And now you've sliced.
It's a weak free agency class, too.
Right. Yeah. You sliced your neck. Now you've killed any chance for the next 3 years. Now you're going to wait 3 or 4 years before you have to really do a rebuild and then start again.
Exactly.
The fastest way to end this nightmare for us is what we're kind of doing. Like looking at the next 2 years to retool this roster and build up this roster. And the coach should do it with his guys, with guys that he wants, right? If he's the wrong guy, he's the wrong guy. If he's the right guy, he's the right guy. But he can't listen to us. He has to do it the way he wants to do it.
Here's what I'll say on the fact about free agency and stuff and not going after the big name free agents. I agree with that 1,000%, primarily because you look at the free agent market, it was very, very barren this offseason. T. Higgins was widely regarded as the number 1 overall free agent this offseason. I love T. Higgins. He's a great player. Ultimately, he was franchise tagged for the 2nd year in a row. A very, very high-end wide receiver, too. A middle-of-the-road wide receiver 1 on a team. And you're looking at him as the number 1 free agent options, and there's talks about him getting 5 years for $95 million, which is just crazy to me. So free agency was overall weak, and I'm happy the Jets didn't go out. They didn't make the big splashes. Last year, I didn't disagree with pretty much any move the Jets made in free agency. At the time, looking back, you pretty much probably disagree with every single move except John Simpson. But in the moment, every move made sense for this team. What the Jets have done thus far, everything pretty much makes sense, right? Maybe you would have rather given Brandon Stevens a little less money. Other than not signing a wide receiver, everything the Jets, and maybe not adding, an elite defensive tackle, everything the Jets have done made sense, and they haven't had to break the bank to do so. So that's what I like overall about what the Jets have done this offseason. June, we appreciate the call. You got any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think like I said once again, I think the draft is going to be big for Muji and Glenn. To me, it's looking like they really are trying to bank on their draft. When you think of it, it looks like they're confident that they can draft the right players. Only time will tell. But I know out of this draft, we have to get a weapon at tight end, regardless of the round. We have to get some defensive depth, and I don't think I might sound crazy. I don't think we're drafting a quarterback this draft. I don't see it.
Mm.
I think they're gonna chill right out with the two we have, and if we stink, we grab one next year. I just don't see this regime unless they in love with somebody, they're enamored with somebody, and it drops to them in round 3 or something. I don't see us drafting a quarterback though. I changed my philosophy on that. But I appreciate you having me on. God bless you guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, June, the GM, checking in here on the show. Great call as always from June. Great stuff. Appreciate all your support here on the program. I know we only have Jeremy for a little longer. We have 4 questions left. We're going to rapid fire through those and then wrap it up here because it's getting late, about 10:49 here on the East Coast. So appreciate you all sticking with us on this late night edition of NY Flight Jet Stock. I can guarantee you we will be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with our guy, draft analyst Cole Thompson will join us on the show. And great news, I haven't officially announced it yet, but starting tomorrow until the draft, Cole will join us every single Saturday for an hour to talk draft. So get your draft questions ready for Cole tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be there. But even before we get to the questions, Jeffrey R. comes in with 20 gifted memberships.
Here's what I do know. We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
I'm gonna lose my gosh darn bananas.
We're playing everything today for Jeffrey R. as he gives us 20 gifted memberships. Jeffrey, thank you so much for your support on the show. 20 more raffle entries for you. Our guy, Midnight Mike, Malcolm Harper, Nick Russo, Why Am I a Jets Fan? Akin, Board Fat 34, Rally Cap Baseball Talk, Mikey Boy Jets, LI 99 Jet, Mercy Fate, Gangrene Goliath, Mario Correa, Big Z, Sean McIntyre, Peter, King Jamie the Mad, Darth, Steve O. You are all members thanks to our guy, Jeffrey R., who comes in with 20 more gifted memberships. And since Jeffrey R. requested it, we'll play it first. He wants the Bart Scott Can't Wait.
Can't wait.
Damn right, Bart. But since Jeremy enjoyed it so much and it's fittingly for this occasion by Jeffrey R., we'll hit it again. Tell him, BG.
I'm gonna lose my gosh darn bananas.
Damn straight, BG. Jeffrey R., thank you so much for the 20 gifted memberships. I appreciate all your support here on the program. We'll rapid fire through these last 4 points here before we wrap up on the program. Sco comes in, says, when are we signing a wide receiver free agent? I mean, I want to look at the names. We were talking about it before the show. The names are dwindling. Like Stephon Diggs for $13 million, Keenan Allen for $12 million, Amari Cooper. You take a flyer on 32-year-old freaking Brandon Cooks. Deontay Johnston, I'm not touching him after what happened last year. Tyler Lockett, is there anything left there? Robert Woods, anything left there? Josh Reynolds, 30 years old, speed guy. Like, names are dwindling. I would be on board with trying to pay like a Tyler Boyd, $3-4 million come in, and then you build through the draft. Maybe that's your Tim Patrick guy in free agency. That's what we're looking at right now. Nothing special.
They're going to hold on to Alan Lazard.
Yeah.
You know, and even if we don't do, I mean, it's hard to imagine that. I mean, after the trade request, but I mean, I don't know. We don't know what conversations they're having with him behind the scenes. You know, it's not going to be pretty, but you know what? We knew that some room or a couple of rooms on this roster were not going to be pretty going into 25. Like the reality was we were never going to make every room look good. And maybe that's going to be a room that doesn't look good. Or maybe they love Ted McMillan. And maybe they're really confident they're going to get him. And their backup plan is Ibuka or Golden. And they love those guys. And maybe that's their plan. Maybe they think we're getting our W-2 in the draft. We love this class. You know, like we don't know what they're thinking. You know, there's things about McMillan I freaking love. Golden is growing on me with his speed, you know, and some of what I'm seeing in him. Ibuka, I love the Ohio State receivers, right? I mean, so maybe that's our plan. Maybe we'll try to trade back, but if not, we'll bite the bullet and just grab one of those guys. I don't know. It could be they want Jaden Higgins or whatever in the second round from Iowa State and believe he'll be there and they love him. You never really know what's going on in the personnel department or in the minds of the organization and what they're really planning. But it could be that we are going to go into the season with a very ugly wide receiver room, and that's where they're going to take the punch to the stomach and say we're going to run the ball like crazy, and that's and we're going to address wide receiver in 26. I mean, who knows?
For sure. Joe Grana comes back in dream scenario. Membu at 7, Grant or Harmon at 42, Terrence Ferguson at 73. We spoke about Membu, Joe. Grant is not Grant nor Harmon. I think both of those guys will be first round picks. I don't think they're making it to 42. And I think Ferguson would be a better fit in the 4th round than 3rd round.
Yeah, look, I would be fine with the second two. Like if Ferguson was at 73, depending on how the first 2 picks went, I wouldn't be upset about that.
I would prefer like Fannin or Arroyo.
Yeah, I know that, and everybody has their favorites and everything, but I'm just saying, like, Ferguson is a little bit more of a floor, is a higher floor, a little bit on the fact that he's a better blocker than those guys. Like he gives you a little bit more as an inline blocker, like as a fallback if the receiving doesn't take off. I mean, all those guys are really good stabs. I personally grab Fannin in every mock draft. I'm always grabbing Fannin because I think he's so explosive and I really like him. But I'm okay with any of those guys. Obviously Grant or Harmon at 42, if they were there, I'd be doing jumping jacks. Like that's an absolute steal. I don't think Grant will be there. I think he's a first rounder for sure. And Harmon, even late first rounder. We started the show with it. I have a problem with Mabu at 7. I mean, I'm not going to throw chairs out the window, but I disagree with it. I think it's bad value.
Mr. Roberts comes in, says, I'd like to see the Jets draft DT, but I think Warren would help Justin Fields. Also, Jeremy, Warren could be your field stretcher, but he's also not only that, he gives you the inline blocking. Like you said, you can line him up in the backfield. You've seen him run plays. So he's a great pass catcher, and you have that versatility with him. I'm really high on Tyler Warren at pick 7. So I think it could certainly be a huge weapon for Justin Fields. You see a world, Jeremy, the Jets draft Tyler Warren, and he's their pass catcher number 3, pass catcher number 2 type guy entering the season?
The kind of offense we might build around Fields, sure. I mean, I think June, said it like perfectly too. Like we can't miss, right? That's one of the things, and they might be thinking like that. We cannot miss. We need to hit on the players we take. And Warren is definitely. We can argue all day about ceilings and to me, it's without argument that Warren has the highest floor. You're not missing with him. You're not going to miss. Like he might not be.
He's as close to a sure thing. Like there's no guarantee in the draft, but he's as close to a sure thing as possible.
Because blocking doesn't have slumps, right? Like he doesn't pan out as a receiver. At the end of the day, he can't get away from the NFL safeties that are covering him or the linebackers. And it turns out that he doesn't adjust to the speed of the game and his routes or whatever. You can make any argument like that you want with any player, but the blocking. And the fact that he can block from anywhere, that typically doesn't miss, right? He is what he is. And you could see the tape, you could see the film, you can line him up anywhere. It's a very hard to imagine him not at the worst case scenario, just being a good, solid football player that makes us better. And we might be building a running team, right? A team that wants to run the ball and do different kind of, things that is we're not, because of to build around Justin Fields. And one can make an argument that Warren is perfectly built for that kind of different kind of offense.
We'll round out with this one here from Zachary. He says, do you think they aren't spending big so they could keep the 4th round comp pick from Reddick? I don't know. I don't think that has much to do with it, Jeremy. I just think it's the fact that it isn't an all-in year. You're not a quarterback away, like the same nonsense we've heard the past 3 years. I think it goes to the fact the Jets, they're not going to the Super Bowl this season. They don't need to bolster their entire roster. And the free agency class overall is weak.
Do you know what I think the overall strategy is?
Let's hear it.
This is if I had to guess what they're doing, right? Because I kind of might even do it myself if I was the GM. I think they're saying, and it looks like what they're doing is saying, we're not going to spend barely any money because we are going to build this team in 2 ways. We're going to hold on to as much of the young, talented core as possible. Sauce, GW, maybe AVT, Joe Tippmann, JJ, right? We are going to hold the young core of this team. Maybe they're saying we love the core of this team, and we're going to make sure that we have the money to extend and make them long-term guys, and we are going to build around those guys in the draft. And then in the future, when the money is there again, because the cap goes up and now we have our core guys and a cheap, quarterback that we drafted, now we'll add the final, the straw that stirs the drink, the icing on the cake. Now we'll go for the big 1 or 2 names that put us over the top. That's what I think they're doing.
Jeremy, I appreciate you hopping on. Everyone, I can't thank you enough for tuning in here on this late night edition of NY Flight Jets Talk, 10:58 p.m. here on the East Coast. So I can't thank you guys, like I said, enough for tuning in. We're back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, talking Jets, talking draft with Cole Thompson, Jets draft analyst. But that'll do it for us tonight, Jeremy. Can't thank you enough for hopping on with me as always. You got any final thoughts you want to share here? Plug everything.
Always great to be here, Connor. Love it. You know that if I can, I always will. We always have a great time.
Appreciate it. Always fun chopping it up with you.
Great at talking ball, and you're always so prepared, so professional. I love it. And yeah, if you'll, always appreciate a sub at Jets Chaos. Check out my content there. Again, Talking Jets channel every Thursday at 3 p.m. I'm with Matt O'Leary. Really proud of that work. And then my Brooklyn Brothers Food Review channel. If you want a little change from football and want to watch a guy and his 2 brothers all over the country, separately, independently, eating and trying different restaurants and rating different foods and giving reviews, Brooklyn Brothers Food Review.
Right here, before we wrap, our guy Luppy comes in with 5 gifted memberships. Luppy, thank you so much. That'll get you into our raffle for 5 tickets. Appreciate all your support here on the program. 20 from Jeffrey, 1 from June, 5 from Luppy. Those are the raffle tickets that were distributed tonight. So I can't thank you guys enough for all your support. Like I said, back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, talking Jets and draft with Cole Thompson, Jets draft analyst, joining us every single Saturday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time from tomorrow all the way until the draft. So stay tuned for that. Can't thank you enough for all your support. That'll do it for us. For Jeremy, I am Connor signing off. JETS, 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 Jets.